Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Matt from RC Overload, and today we're doing a little more work to the Axial Yeti. I've already been doing a lot of upgrading, improving on the suspension, but again, we're going to continue on improving up the suspension of the truck. Because that's pretty much where a lot of the flaws are, and a lot of the problems are, is the suspension. It's just too soft. You know, it doesn't... It could use a lot of work. But what I am doing today is actually installing Proline Pro-Spec Shocks and Proline turnbuckles. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because I saw Proline make a blog post a few weeks back, actually. And they showed how to use that stuff on the Axial Yeti to improve it. So I thought that was really cool. I wanted to get my hands on it, so I ordered up the stuff. And today I'm going to show you guys actually how to put it all together. Because there is quite a few different parts that you're going to need in order to make it all work. So I'm going to bring the camera in a little closer and we'll kind of go over everything and really just go over what you're going to need, how to set it up, and show you guys a little problem that I had run into before. But there is a little fix for it. So anyways, let's get going. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you real quick how to set up the links for your steering and camber setup using the Proline link kits and the rod ends. And what you're going to need is you're going to need to get both the 6062 and 6082 link kits for both the steering and the camber. And you're also going to need one of the rod end kit, the 6102. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to put everything in the description box down below, listing out exactly what you need for what application and what's going to work where. Okay, but here's what we're going to do. Alright, so for your steering link setup, you got the nice long rod on here, and you got short rod ends. Okay, so I've actually labeled these to help myself after reading the blog post. Alright, so the 6082 is actually going to be for your steering and turning link. These are the longer links, and you're going to need that in order to get access to the knuckle. Alright, now I don't have these fully adjusted into the spot. I'll do that when I get the knuckle and the carrier on. Excuse me. But basically that's all you're going to do. Longer rod, which is the 6082, with the shorter rods ends from this kit, okay, those middle ones, and you're going to do that for both sides. Now for the camber link setup, you're going to take the shorter rod, which is the 6062 kit, this one right here, and you're going to take the longer rod ends and you're going to put that on those. Very simple, okay? Now the rod end kit, let me put this down for a second. The rod end kit does come with some screws, and it also comes with some anodized swivel joints or ball joints, whatever you guys want to call them. Okay, you won't be able to use them all on all four corners of the steering links. All right. The way that this is set up is I have the Vanquish steering rack, okay, which is actually the exact same setup as the stock one, the stock plastic. It's just aluminum. The width inside where that swivel joint goes in, okay, it's a very narrow area, and the Proline swivel joints are actually slightly wider than the stock ones. So you're going to unfortunately still have to use the stock plastic swivel joint in this area on both sides, okay. On the opposite end of that, you can, however, use the Proline one, because the screw's just going to go right in from the top and just go right into the bottom part of the knuckle where the arm is on it. On the camber setup, the end that actually goes into the carrier, okay? Again, you're going to have to use the stock plastic ones because the carrier's width, where it actually goes in, is narrow. And again, the Proline ones will not fit in it. They're just a little bit wider than that. On the opposite end, where it goes into the shock tower, you can use the Proline anodized swivel joints. So again, quick overview: Proline swivel joint, stock swivel joint. Proline swivel joint, stock swivel joint. Okay? So that's pretty simple to set those up. Now we'll get into putting on the Pro-Spec shock. Okay, so assembling the Pro-Spec shocks are really easy to do, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that real quick. So the first thing you're going to need, of course, is the Pro-Spec shock kit, which is 630830. Whoops, sorry. Okay, and it comes with 2 of them, and it comes with a little hardware kit plus the pistons with the holes different sizes so you can make different adjustments in it, aluminum balls, some spacers in there, okay, for different applications. And they also come with, which is really cool, a little tool kit. You got different size setups for different things. For instance, to pop the top cap off of the shock, you just slide it on there, and then you can twist it on or off. Same with the other 2, they're for different setups on there when you're rebuilding it or whatnot. If you guys wanted more in-depth operation of how this shock works and how to assemble it and whatnot, I'm going to post a link up at the bottom as well, so you guys can watch that video and show you how to assemble it and whatnot. So the first thing that we got to do, okay, now I've already gone ahead and put the fluid into it, and I've tuned it, which is really cool because it's got a little tuning screw on it. Try to you gotta get it to focus. A little tuning screw right on top. Basically, you fill it up, you put the cap on, you slowly push the piston all the way up, let all the air come out of that little hole, put the screw back in, and then you're good to go. Okay? Again, if you want to know more, that video that's going to be in the description box will show you guys how to do all that. But the first thing we got to do is we got to replace the rod end at the bottom, because the one that's on there is a little bit too short and it's going to hit the control arm. Okay? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get the kit 6060, which are the Power Stroke Scale Plastic and Rebuild Kit. And that basically is this. Alright? It's got a bunch of different rod ends, and as you guys can see, I already have one missing, and that's on this shock. And we got to use the longer rod ends in order to clear that control arm so it doesn't hit and cause any suspension issues. So let me cut that off real quick here. Just got to find out what I just did with my X-Acto knife, because I just had it. Found it! Okay, so we're just going to cut that off real quick. Alright, put that over there. And now comes the fun part, and I don't really have the best tools, you guys, but this is how I do it. Grab the shaft on the shock, put one of my Allen keys through, and we're just gonna twist it off. Yay, there we go. Okay, everything's flying everywhere. So there we go. It's off. Now we gotta put the longer one on there. And again, you just do the same thing. And you will need to use a little bit of force in order to get it to go on. Okay. So I'll use my pliers here, squeeze down, and we're going to go all the way until it sits. Basically stops. Okay, so I got the longer rod end on, and I even swapped out the metal swivel that was in the shorter one that it came with, okay? Because that will still fit in there. It is shorter, so you are going to need to put a little spacer inside of this, which is fine, because again, the hardware kit comes with a whole bunch of different spacers. So the next thing we want to do is, according to the blog, they went up and put in a little stiffer spring, which is the Pro-Spec Front Spring Purple Super Hard Kit, is what they're calling it. It is 6308-15. So we got the purple spring, you guys can see. Purple. Slide that on, and then we're going to put the bottom retainer back on the spring, the shock. Excuse me. And there we go. We are now ready to put it on the car. So let me move some of this stuff out of the way. Alright, so as you guys can see, I already have the screw for the bottom half of the shock in. I already pre-thread it, which actually isn't a bad idea, especially when you're using RPM control arms. The holes are really small to begin with, and it's just there to help prevent stripping or whatnot. So it's not a bad idea to pre-thread in the screw into the hole that you're going to use, back it out, and then put all your stuff in. And again, always go slow when you're screwing it in. You know, nice smooth turns. That way you don't strip out the head of the screw or the hole of the screw that's going in. So we'll get the Pro-Spec shock bottom half in first, okay? Now this is a little tricky. It's going to require a couple of hands to do, because you got to hold it in there while you get the screw going in. Oh, alright, I got to stand up for this. I can't see what I'm doing. Alright, so we'll get that going. And I'm only turning it just enough till I see it pop out of the other end of the swivel ball, because remember, I got to put in a little spacer, and I'm doing it on the back side of it because remember, I got to push this shock away from the drive shaft a little. So there we go. It just came out of the back side here, and I know it's hard for you guys to see, but on the back side, facing backwards, the screws just popped out a little bit. So I'm going to take the little tiny spacer I got here. Okay, this is a really thin one. I know it's hard to see on the camera. Alright. We are going to pop that up in there. Kind of hold it in place. I'm pushing the shock up against it to hold it. Take my screw and start turning it in a little bit. Okay. I gotta reposition that. Push it up. This does get a little tricky. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. There we go. But believe me, I keep playing around with this shock just because of how smooth it is compared to the stock shocks. It's like night and day. So I'm really excited to test out what these shocks are really going to be capable of. Okay, so we're all the way in, and I'm just snugging it up a little bit. Okay, so there we go. Shock's in. You guys get a little close-up view of that. You guys can see. Okay. Now on the back side, I have that little spacer. Again, it may be hard to see. Okay. And that's just because the pivot ball that comes with this is a little bit smaller than the stock one. You can use the stock one. You don't have to use the metal ones. I just like to use the metal ones because they're so much smoother versus plastic. So I don't mind throwing in a little spacer in there. So now we're going to go ahead to the top half. And this is really where you need to make sure you got enough space and where most of your clearance from the drive shaft is gonna happen. Okay. So if you guys take a look, all right. Now on the blog, that little swivel joint that's on the shock is actually facing outwards when they have it on there. And remember, I'm using a carbon fiber front shock tower. I'm not using the stock plastic one, and I'm not using the stock plastic control arms. All of these widths are actually a little bit different than the stock ones, okay? So that's why I kind of have to put the spacers in there. If you use the stock shock tower and the stock control arms, you most likely will not run into this problem. Looking at the pictures from the blog post, it looks like it clears, but from what I'm seeing with the RPM control arms that are just a hair thicker in this area, and this area which seems to be a like millimeters shorter than the stock plastic one, I kind of have to put in a few spacers to make up the difference. So instead of having that turned that direction, we're actually going to turn it around to use that as like a spacer. Okay. Now the carbon fiber shock tower came with a little white spacer. So we're going to use that, as well as literally we just need a little bit more. And if you guys can see it, I know it's kind of hard to show you, but I'm using a very thin spacer again on the back side where it's going to go right up against the carbon fiber shock tower. I'll show you guys what I mean when I get it all assembled. Okay, put the screw in. I'm going to put the plastic, the white plastic one from the shock tower kit in, and then the little black one. And you can still put it on any of the holes. Alright, and you are going to need, oh no, I lost the screw, I mean the nut. My nut fell. My nuts fell, man. The stock plastic shock tower, the screw screws right into it and holds it. But with the carbon fiber, you're going to need nuts, alright, to hold it in place. The screw will pop out a little bit in the backside. You're going to need a little longer screw. And we'll just get this started. Come on, there we go. And there. Use the pliers to hold the nut. And we're just going to tighten it down a little bit. And there you go. As simple as that. Alright? And then we can make up our adjustments later once we figure everything out. For anyone that's curious, I did put 20 weight shock fluid in here. But with the tougher spring and that shock weight fluid, still get some good tension in there, but it's nice and smooth. Okay? So take a good look at that. Alright? So there's that little black spacer up against the carbon fiber shock tower. There's the white spacer that the carbon fiber shock tower comes with. And then you got the spacer from the shock itself that actually is supposed to go the other way, but we're using it as a spacer. Alright. And let me see if I can get this. If you guys can see down inside of there, there's a little spacer in there as well. So that helps to push it all away from where the drive shaft comes out of. And again, if you don't do that and you just kind of put it right up against everything, it's gonna hit the drive shaft and you're gonna run into problems. So there you go. I know this might be a little bit long and I'm sorry. I just want to get the information out there, the problems that I ran into, how to do it and all that. So hopefully you guys found it informative. I mean, that's really nice. Especially when you feel the old stock shocks versus these. It's really is night and day. It's so much smoother, there's less resistance in it. It's really cool. Plus they look fantastic on here. So that's it, guys. Again, I am going to put all the information in the description box for everything you're going to need to set this up and get it working right. Okay? So that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one, where I think I'm actually going to start working on the rear axle a little bit. Get some STRC stuff. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.